The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to Luke.
Glory be to thee, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, and unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action, and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to thee, Lord Christ.
Good morning.
Good morning.
From Hebrews we heard, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Well, yesterday happens to have been the Feast of the Transfiguration, when Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up the mountain with him to pray. As Jesus prays, the appearance of his face is altered, his robe becomes white and glistening, and a voice comes from a cloud saying, "This is my Son, listen to him." For some reason, this past week, I just couldn't get my head wrapped around a reflection to share with you today. I used every avoidance technique that I could think of, and they worked. That is until Friday, when it was time for the rubber to meet the road. Or I thought I could just stand up here before you and say, "I got nothing." No, you're not getting off that easy. Sorry. All week, the Transfiguration would pop into my mind, and some words kept reoccurring. Change, transfiguration, transformation, adjustment, variation, modification, along with others, all day, and even in the middle of the night when I would wake. This past year plus has been full of many unexpected changes in our families, our personal lives, and personal health issues. We often rail against them, resisting, fighting back, and denying the realities of life. The fact of the matter is, there is nothing we can do, and the more we try to hang on to what was, we are literally choking the life out of the days that we have been given. I detest that saying, "It is what it is." Accept it and move on. Remember though, acceptance does not mean to agree with. It's just the way it is. Faith just is, often beyond understanding. Until one experiences it, one can't know faith. Faith is best described as a verb. It is a process, not a possession. Some days are overflowing with faith, and some are not. Faith ebbs and flows back and forth. Faith is not being sure where you're going, but going anyway. It's a journey without maps. You can't Google it on MapQuest and find directions to faith. God entrusts us with the holy gift and the freedom of our own free will to make choices. And people of faith always have the option of returning to the land that they left behind. We know that land. It's the one that we always do through rose-colored glasses, the one where the wilderness, when the Israelites longed for home. It's the land that they had that was full of leeks and garlic, and they forgot they were slaves in that land. I have often heard people say, "Oh, I wish I were 20 again and could do it all over." Not me, because I know I wouldn't do it any differently, because I wouldn't know any better. It is our life, faith experiences that teach us. I think what I have learned the most and deepest about faith is, and my deepest experiences of that are how to not do it, whatever it might be, in my lives and in the lives of others. Faith requires letting go, reaching out, moving. And the good news is that God is always calling us to move forward into new life, to wipe the dust off our sandals and to get on with it, putting one foot in front of the other, often when we think that we would rather not. Sometimes, though, we can't find the joy. It's what I think might be similar to that phrase about swimming in a pool filled with cold molasses. Everything seems difficult that time in our life, even the usual tasks of life. But in spite of us, God does not give up on us, and God keeps pulling, prodding, pushing, and assuring us that that fog will lift, that our grief or loss, no matter what form it comes in, God is there to walk it with us. God is never leaving us. We'll like it or not. Even when we think God has left us, that might be the time that God is most present. Maybe, that is truly a gift. At the lowest points of life, God is there. God is there, encouraging, pushing sometimes working hard to get our attention so we can just get through it. Faith is forward-oriented, with a deep knowing that God will keep God's promises. In a nutshell, faith and hope are one. And life of faith is a pilgrimage, a journey. As an example, the author of Hebrews reminds us of Abraham and Sarah. The author focuses not on God's call, but on Abraham's response. And that response is expressed in obedience. Abraham sets off for a place that God has promised. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what he's going to find when he gets there. But he just keeps going. Indeed, he and his children sojourn in a foreigner's land the hope and promise of God's promises that God will keep them and give them to them. God calls us into a new life, gives us a vision for the homeland we seek. Abraham and Sarah, their faith was more than right thinking. It also involved right acting. It is involved not in just their heads, but in their whole beings. Truly, the treasure of their hearts was obedience to God's promises. So the next time, maybe, when you're trying to wrap your heads, your minds, and heart around faith, or worrying that you don't have enough, accept where you are and know that you have just enough for the journey, and just keep moving forward. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And that's about all I have to say about